and major rappers in Atlanta.
I met everybody through Pee Wee Longway. That's my brother. That's like my brother-in-law.
As they were constantly in studios and surrounded by rappers, they decided to join together and to start a music label. This would be known as Money, Piles, and Ammo, also known as MPA.
Okay, so you guys started rolling together and you guys start MPA together.
We around it so much. Let's pay for some studio time, shoot a couple videos. Let's just see where this goes.
Unfortunately, they had no idea how to properly run a business, but aside from that, Zaire had a special ear for talent. In fact, he discovered Young Thug in 2008 and actually started managing his career early on. Without having him signed to any sort of paperwork, Zaire had him in the studio and was also introducing him to some bigger names. In fact, in 2009, he even brought him to LA to try to get him in the studio with Nipsey Hussle.
I started showing him the game with what's going on the West Coast too.
Right.
You know, I took him in front of Nip in like '09 and told him to work with him, and Nip was like iffy. Thug was slime, man. He was real, like, you know what I'm saying? He was out here robbing, doing all, you know,
Real.
regular hood. So
the point is that he was helping out Atlanta artists and he had a really good ear for talent. So not only does he have a potentially major label at his hands, but he's also doing pretty well financially. In fact, in 2009, he copped a nice condo in Sandy Springs, a fly whip, and you know, he was just doing his thing. Once again, things are truly looking good for him, but sadly, this is when he's met with some terrible luck. October 22nd, 2009. It's a Thursday night in North Atlanta and Zaire is headed down Interstate 19 headed towards downtown. As he's cruising down, a Georgia State Patrol gets behind him and runs his tags. Unfortunately, he never registered the car, so the officer hits the cherries.
Ah shit, here we go again.
Zaire knows that he's riding dirty as a convicted felon, so he smashes on the pedal. Now he's on a high-speed chase cutting in and out of traffic in Buckhead, and then skirt, he smashes into a pole. Just like that, the officers are able to pull him out of the car and they find weapons inside. This time, it's no joke as he's facing 4 separate felonies. So already being a convicted felon, he's looking at up to 12 years in prison. But somehow, once again, Zaire is able to completely avoid prison and only get a few months in jail. What? A convicted felon and documented Rolling 60s Crip only gets a few months in jail for 4 separate felonies. That makes no sense in my mind. Well, once again he gets off easy and he's right back on the streets in early 2010. But not for long. On July 28, 2010, he would have another high-speed chase while on probation. And yet again, he's caught with a weapon and facing 10 years in prison. But mysteriously, the judge lets him off easy and he only does 18 months. Now before you call him a snitch or an informant, do understand that this is Fulton County, which is a complete joke. Well, regardless, it's now 2012 and the MPA boss returns to the streets. While he was away, Pee Wee Longway was able to discover young rappers Lil Durk, Rich Homie Quan, and a group called the Migos.
Rich Homie Quan before he came out. I'm hearing 21 Savage before he came out.
So as soon as Zaire got out of prison, he was connected with them and actually started helping their careers. Not only did he pay for their studio time and connect them with rappers, but he also provided them with protection. Durk being an outsider from Chicago and the Migos being suburban wannabes, they both could use some protection. But most importantly, the biggest thing he provided was protection whenever the rappers went to LA. In fact, he even brought Future to LA for the very first time.
You know what I'm saying? I've been that person, like bringing them out here. Like I had Future, I turned LA on the Future. I was listening to Dirty Sprite 1. You know, I brought them out here to do a song with Nip.
Essentially, he was every rapper's connection whenever they'd go to LA. He was the first and only call. Remember this, because it will be very important. Well, as we know, everyone around him and Pee Wee was getting rich and famous during this period. And after a while, they got kind of tired of being the guys in the background, and they wanted to try rapping for themselves. So Zaire would become MPA Shitro or MPA Bricc Baby, and Pee Wee was still Pee Wee Longway. Early on, things were looking bright for the duo as they had the help of Durk, Future, Young Thug, Gucci Mane, and more. Basically, because of everything they had done for them, if they ever needed a feature, it was done right away. But then unfortunately, as things are going up for Bricc Baby, he catches another felon in possession charge in Los Angeles. And this time he's sentenced to 3 years in prison. As he's sitting in a lonely prison cell, everyone around him is getting rich and famous. Young Thug signs with Birdman and blows up, Future blows up, Lil Durk blows up, Rich Homie Quan blows up, Pee Wee Longway blows up, well, kind of, but you get the point. Oh, and don't forget that the Migos get a feature with Drake and they're out of here as well. So literally everyone who was with him in Atlanta completely blow up and get nationally famous. All while Zaire Bricc Baby is sitting in a California prison with no fame or nothing. Damn, that would shatter any man's ego, and don't act like it wouldn't. But on the flip side, because they're all rich and famous now, he assumes that once he gets out, they'll definitely put him on. So 3 long years go by and Bricc Baby is finally released. It's 2015 and Bricc Baby is finally home expecting a warm welcome. But as soon as he touches down, a harsh reality kicks in. These guys are not your real friends. Aside from Thug, Pee Wee, and Dirk, his friends were not there to help him out and pretty much wanted nothing to do with him.
You told me earlier that you've been cut off. People cut you off or something of that sort.
My industry friends that I thought was my friends now. Free YSL, Gunna, Slime. Y'all did, you know what I'm saying? You already know, we ain't even gotta talk. Long Way.
Are we speaking
Dirk.
like
After everything he did for some of his friends in the industry, he really took it hard.
was broke, we could go through DMs, or when you was up and coming, we could do that. I just feel like they wanted to be around me when they was broke because they didn't have nothing. So now you a millionaire now, you don't want that type of pressure around. But you think I'm gonna turn that energy on you? You my boy, I love you. I wouldn't give a fuck if you had $1 or $1 billion. I'm gonna treat you the same way.
Bricc Baby was now a peon or an afterthought to many people he helped out, and this truly hurt his ego. Now, instead of being the guy who helps out rappers and protects them, he reverts to being the guy who wants to rob them. Don't come to LA. Unless your name is Dirk, Thug, or Pee Wee, you better tuck your tail. So as the streets tell it, Bricc Baby becomes the biggest chain collector in LA. Basically, he had his young Rolling 60s members doing serious homework in the streets. This included having them sit at the airport for rappers to come to town and then following their cars back to their hotel. Then they'd relay all of this information back to Bricc and he'd do with it what he pleased. So basically, without them knowing, rappers were being tracked by Bricc Baby the second they stepped foot in LA. Then he and the Rolling 60s would wait for the perfect opportunity to strike, and then they'd get up on him and give me everything you got. So just like that, he went from being known as the helpful guy in the industry
to the boogeyman.
And because of this reputation, he would be featured on YG's notorious song, Don't Come to LA. Don't come to LA, raffles for their jewelry. Bro, LA is so corny, bro. But anyways, as the YG feature would help his recognition, he was still hurting financially. How I know this? Well, he was now 29 years old and still taking penitentiary chances. And that takes us to September 21st, 2017. It's an early Thursday afternoon on the west side of LA, and Bricc and 2 Rolling 60s members are masking up for a lick. In particular, they aim to hit a high-end jewelry store in the wealthy Marina del Rey. So at 1 p.m., they arrive in front of the store in a gray Range Rover SUV. Then they quickly hop out of the car and run inside the store with bags. Once they're able to secure a few expensive items, they run out of the store and hop back in the Range Rover. Bricc then quickly speeds away, not realizing that LAPD are already behind him. After bending a few blocks, he hears the sirens and knows they're in trouble. So he instantly punches the gas and busts a left down a residential road. This is when he finally realizes that it's a dead-end street. So now he has no choice but to stop the car and run inside a nearby apartment. While he barricades himself in the lobby, police completely surround the area. And from here, a 6-hour standoff begins, Bricc Baby in the 60s versus LAPD. Finally, at 7:30 p.m., Bricc Baby surrenders.
Misunderstanding tonight, or was it justified? A local rapper arrested after a tense standoff with officers in Marina del Rey, but his family says police got the wrong guy. NBC4's Beverly White just spoke with his family and police. Beverly.
That's right, Chuck. LAPD says it started with a 20-minute pursuit this afternoon of a man traveling in a silver Range Rover, and it ended when he ducked into this apartment building in the 13,900 block of Panay Way. That music video from YouTube is of local rap artist Bricc Baby, the 29-year-old now in LAPD custody after a standoff in Marina del Rey, identified by his mother, who declined to give her name.
The already 3-time felon is facing 2 more of them things. Because of his history and the severity of the charges, he's facing up to 15 years in prison. Definitely nothing to scoff at. Of course, his family doesn't want to see him go away for a long time, and because of this, they go on the news and blame everything on his co-defendant. His mom goes on the news and says, "My son didn't rob anyone, in fact, he doesn't even own a gun." And get ready for this one. His friend is actually the one who robbed the store, and Bricc only drove him away because of adrenaline. So she evidently threw his co-defendant under the bus. And I don't know, is this snitching? It's his mom, but yeah, it's snitching, right? Well, long story short, Bricc is let off easy again as he's sentenced to 4 years in prison. And even though this isn't that much time, with 4 felonies on his record, what is he gonna do for the rest of his life? Obviously, this is a harsh reality for a guy in his 30s, but sadly, during his prison stay, things get even worse.
The music world is mourning Grammy-nominated rapper Nipsey Hussle, who was killed in a shooting in Los Angeles. Hussle was shot multiple times yesterday in a parking lot outside his clothing store.
What he meant to the community, if you want to look around right now, every single person that's out here, spending their time here, they're here because he spoke to them in some way, he inspired them in some way, they related to him in some way.
He meant a lot. He meant everything to the community. You know, he was an entrepreneur. He was employing people. He loved his community. He was encouraging them and empowering them to be more, to do more with their lives. So that's why we're hurt today.
The city of LA, and more specifically the Rolling 60s, lost a legend, and unfortunately, Bricc Baby would learn from a prison cell.
Oh no, I'm playing poker in the day room. So I'm playing poker, and a dude from Blackstone come over from Jungles. He come over like, "Shitty blood, like they killed Nip." I'm like, "Stop playing with the set." Immediately, I'm like, "Stop playing, bro." I get on the phone, I'm like, "Hey, what they talking about with Nip?" They like, "Yeah, he just got killed." And I'm like, "Huh? How did somebody come into the parking lot and kill bro? Like, he supposed to be untouchable in this parking lot." You get what I'm saying? Like,
Bricc is completely devastated and confused, and it gets even worse when he finds out who did it. His lil homie Eric Holder, the one who saved his life and put in work when he was paralyzed. And once he heard the story of how it transpired, this is what hurt him the most. Basically, he was with his girlfriend and he walked up to Nipsey in front of his store. And when he goes to dap him up, Nipsey refuses to shake his hand and calls him a rat. This is a major violation in the LA street code. You do not call someone a rat without paperwork, and especially not in front of their girl. So Eric, being one of the only actual steppers from the Rolling 60s, he feels completely played and wants to do something to Nipsey. So long story short, he goes to his car, grabs his blick, and walks back to the block. Then in front of an entire crowd of Rolling 60s members, he walks right up to Nipsey and lets him have it. After emptying his clip, he simply walks away as Nipsey's friends are frozen in shock. And because of how quickly and emotionally this happened, Bricc realizes that if he was there, he could have calmed down Eric and made everything okay.
When I get wind that it's Cuz, I'm like, oh, Cuz. I'm like, man, I'm just like, man, how one of my close friends killed my other close friend while I was in jail. So you always think like, damn, if I was on the streets, could I have stopped it? I probably could have took him to go smoke and slide, and we could have went somewhere that would never happen.
How Eric Holder was able to do this in front of all those people is beyond me, but it is California at the end of the day. And on top of this, instead of going by their own code and holding court in the streets, they decided to testify against him in court. What I've now learned doing this for a few years is that all of these LA street codes that they all say they abide by are pretty much never enforced, or at least they pick and choose who they want to enforce them on, and on top of this, they're always contradicting themselves. But either way, we move on to another rapper loss that involves the Rolling 60s, and that takes us right back to Atlanta, Georgia. As we all know, in the summer of 2020, Chicago rapper King Von would start an internet beef with Baton Rouge's NBA YoungBoy. I guess it started over a girl, but for the sake of the video, the details don't really matter. Well, because of YoungBoy's close friendship with Rolling 60s rapper Quando Rondo, he was implicated in the beef as well. So for months, Von would instigate the beef and they would go back and forth online. Then eventually, Von would take the internet beef to the streets. On the night of November 6, 2020, Quando Rondo and his friend Lil Tim would be at a lounge in Atlanta. Von, who now happened to be living in Atlanta as well, would get word of this and he would pull up to the lounge. So while Lil Tim is sitting in the Escalade and Quando Rondo is standing outside, King Von would pull up on him and start whooping his ass. As soon as Tim sees what's going on and Quando's on the ground surrounded by the Chicago goons, he lets off.
Atlanta police say 2 people are dead after an officer-involved shooting here on Trinity Avenue in downtown. As dawn turned to daylight, you could make out dozens of evidence markers. GBI crime scene investigators combing the scene.
It hurt us. It hurt us a lot. I cried. Some of my friends cried. He had a big influence on us, a really big influence.
Obviously, this was a monumental moment in rap history as one artist lost his life to another. And unfortunately, everyone in the industry and the streets started picking sides. You're either on Von and Lil Durk's side, or you're on Quando and Youngboy's side. There's no in between. Well, despite the fact that Von initiated all of this, and Quando's side arguably did nothing wrong, everyone was choosing Durk's side. This was so big that even Spotify and Apple Music are accused of taking Durk's side and blackballing Quando and Youngboy.
He literally told me, he said, Apple blackballing Quando. He said, I talked to the people at Spotify, because you know Quando was signed to me. He said, they say they can't put him on so-and-so. It was either Apple or Spotify that said, we can't put him on so-and-so because the other guy don't with him and he ain't gonna with us. So basically he was saying that Durk either told Spotify or Apple that, yo, if y'all with that guy, I ain't gonna with y'all. So basically they were picking sides, right?
All the guys who always talk about the street code, the street code, the street code. Well, I guess it doesn't apply to this situation. King Von and his crew initiated the beef and Lil Tim stood up for his friend. What goes against the street code at all? But like I said, with the streets picking and choosing what's okay, because Von and Durk were the popular artists, everyone went against Quando and
Tim. The game ain't acting like they're picking favorites, not standing on how the streets normally supposed to treat that. You're supposed to treat that as, alright, it is what it is.
Now, of course, this is all the industry, so let's go back to the real streets. And when I say real streets, I'm talking about Bricc Baby. All of this went down while Bricc Baby was in prison about a year before his release. Regardless though, upon his release, a lot of people were curious where his loyalties would lie. Are you loyal to your buddy Durk or to the Rolling 60s, specifically the set that you brought to Georgia? Now, according to the LA street codes, you're never supposed to go against your own gang, cause at that point, what's the point of even being in it? When you're constantly talking about on 6-0 and on hood and riding and being loyal for the set, there's no way you can cross your own flag. However, when it comes to your millionaire friend, all of that goes out the window. Right after his prison release, Bricc Baby goes on No Jumper and lets the world know where he stands.
You know what I'm saying? Like Quando Rondo.
You're not with him.
Boy, stop.
Well, that's gotta be weird for you because you with Durk so much.
It ain't weird for me.
Yeah.
It ain't weird for me at all. You know what I'm saying? You're not from Rolling 60s.
Oh, really?
You're not from LA Rolling 60s. You're not from Rolling 60s.
Oh, really?
You're not from LA Rolling 60s. You're not from Rolling 60s.
Wait. All those years of putting people on in Georgia and spreading the 60s out there, and you don't even respect them as Rolling 60s? That makes no sense. That is the dumbest reason to say that you're not rocking with Quando, because he's not from LA and he's from Georgia. That makes no sense. So to all the Rolling 60s out there that aren't in LA, see this and understand that the guys in LA do not respect you, so just understand that. And that's not to mention that the guys out of state are probably more active, because in LA they're just squabbling and catching fades and hanging out in front of their $1 million hoods where nothing happens and they talk about how crazy it is. But the point is that Bricc Baby did the unthinkable and went against his own flag for his millionaire friend, going against everything he's ever said he stood for. And that just shows you the true character of Bricc Baby, just grimy and slimy.
You really from the trenches and you showing love, cause we not gonna get on your ass. You get what I'm saying? Cause you got it like how we got it. Cause you got it like how we got it. Cause you got it like how we got it. It's these pretending ass niggas. You don't have a hood that you taking care of. You're not from the hood. 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 You're not from the hood.